don't say nothing. I don't hear nothing.
I don't let him
Good
say. I don't let
evening.
him say anything, Jacob.
We
tell
don't
him
say,
be
I
quiet.
never
See
say,
that.
we don't say nothing. You're on. Good evening and welcome to Insight into Mental Health. I'm Bob Bienvenu, your host, wearing my sweatshirt, ULL shirt that Miss Jackie Ballou, who is the angel on my shoulder, has given me. Miss Jackie is the mother of the guy who started Insight with me, Jamie Ballou. Jamie unfortunately passed away a few years, but he's still in our hearts, you know. So anyway, let's go on. Right next to me is who this gorgeous, beautiful, voluptuous creature is.
Yeah.
Nellie Harrington, inside and out champ, man.
Hello, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. Welcome to Insight into Mental Health in AOC. We're so happy that you're here.
Right next to her is the professor, this guy. When it comes to computers, then nobody can touch this guy, man. You know, if he would get what it's worth is, he'd be in the six-figure category.
Yeah, I used to cry all the time with my computer. Was always broken, and then Richard put the healing touch to it, and now I never have trouble with it. So
Yeah, and he's a
So
great
great.
friend.
I'm
and
blushing.
He's an entrepreneur to help anybody that's in need. Richard will be there for him, as well as Nellie.
Yeah, I'm a
And
lay
me too.
disability advocate too. I stress the word lay. This is all volunteer.
Yes, yes. And so anyway, we welcome y'all to the show. I'm Bob Bienvenu, your host and producer of the show. Nellie is honorary associate producer, and Richard is associate producer. So, you know, and then we're going to have our director join us, who is Nellie's son, and the best director we ever had, Brandon Lantier. And the four of us will be talking tonight about different things. First of all, before we start the show, we ask for prayers. And I ask for prayers for Joe Standridge. Joe Standridge is a Korean War veteran, and he had a stroke, and we ask for prayers for Joe and prayers for his family. Joe is a class act guy, one of the real people, you know, really good guy, so we ask for prayers for him. And also we ask for prayers for Patsy Bertrand and her family, and Lamar, his, Patsy's daughter-in-law, who lost a husband, Toby, a few months ago, and Toby was a great guy, you know. And we ask for prayers for all the Bertrand clan, you know, nice people. Some of the most beautiful women to ever come out of St. Morgan. There I go. I was talking about beautiful women. I don't know why. I guess it's natural. But anyway, and I would also like to ask for my friend Mike. Mike works in Lafayette off of Bertrand, and we ask for prayers for Mike. And I also ask for prayers for my friend that I've been asking for prayers for, my special friend who I came up with, you know, and grew up with. I asked for prayers, and they've been doing really, really well. So we're glad about that. I ask for prayers for Denver and Rosalind Nobles, that they will be able to do well. Denver and me and Richard are going to be going to Baton Rouge next month, where me and Richard are going to become be trained to become facilitators with NAMI to help Denver out. And Denver and Rosen are also class act people, man. You won't meet any nicer and classier people with Denver and his beautiful wife Rosen. So we give you kudos. And also God ask for prayers for my special cousin Joan Seymour, that Joan does well, and her mom, the lady I respect the most on the planet Earth at 93, Oline Gary. Beautiful Oline. When Oline goes to heaven, Mother Teresa's going to give her her chair, you know. I know that for a fact, you know. So anyway, we ask for prayers. I would also ask for prayers for Mike Fuseli and Pete Delcom and Jerry DePlantis and Mike Bienvenu, who are going to be putting on the Chico retreat starting February 12th. And me and Richard are going to be going over there. So if anybody is interested in it, you got my number up there, 781-4255. And also, finally, I'd ask for prayers for Miss Jackie Ballou. Miss Jackie has been really always there for me. And I love Miss Jackie. Class. Man, we know some class people, man. We're lucky, man. We've been, for years and years, it was just me by myself, and the people I went or was around were abusers, It's they're just about all gone out of my life. They are all gone out of my life. And we'd also like to have a special prayer to our friends, Larry Crouch,
And Jeff?
and Jeff Helms, two of our brothers, Christian brothers that also go to NAMI, and Robert Broussard, my friend Robert Broussard, who did the horse therapy with me, who was on last time. Anyway, without further ado, to start off, like we're the three of us are very big advocates of reading and writing, and we read our books on TV. And I would like to start off by reading Nellie's. We're working on getting Nellie's book printed, and it is really descriptive, a really good descriptive book.
Can I set it up a little bit before you read it?
Yes.
One of the characters in the book, her name is Eden Exude, and she's a chemist, but she's had a big setback because she gets a bump on the head and she gets amnesia. And so she struggles, and she has post-traumatic stress disorder, which, I work with that in my life a lot because I'm learning some great techniques, and it's helped me. And we've talked about post-traumatic stress disorder a lot. And so Eden Exude comes out of her amnesia, and she's starting to remember, but she's having a hard time. And she just says a simple prayer to the universe, and an angel comes to help her, and the name of the angel is Lumi, and that's what this is about.
Lumi to Eden. Feel your way into vibration, into that soft, good feeling place. Withdraw from the chaos of your own mind. Don't you want to know what's the source within you thinks? Move into a place that is more wanted, allowing the masses that are standing by to help you do so. The angels that are watching over you come to you and do for you right now. Don't you want to know what you are missing out on? Right now, when you are holding yourself out of the line and aid of resources that infinite and greater than anything you could ever imagine. Don't you want the personal, private pearls of happiness and wisdom that source has lined up for you, just waiting for you to be able to realize it in the greatest form possible? Feel your way to it, choose a feeling, and then watch the law of attraction line it up for you with ease. It's pretty
Well,
awesome.
it's really kind of like, like I learned when I get in a bad place that I have to try to seek the next best feeling. If I'm depressed, I can't automatically wake up and bring myself into joy. I can't sometimes bring myself into the reasoning of it. But if I can say, okay, I can feel the next best thing, which might come maybe an hour later or 15 minutes later, I can think about something that can bring me another feeling. And so it's just these practices and these tools that we use to try to self-acclimate, to self-balance as much as possible when we don't have someone there always for us to help us.
Yes, and me and Richard, like we talked about earlier, we've been going to IOP, an intense support group, and we are learning different things about emotions and feelings. And one of the things I learned about feelings is, you won't keep a feeling for a super long time, unless it's clinical depression, and then
Right.
you need medication.
Right.
But the thing about feelings is to feel what you feel, whether it's good or bad, and then let it go. Join us, Brandon.
You know what we did, like Brandon and I, and it worked so great. I've been using tapping, and tapping helps diffuse some of the friction out of your body. And it was amazing because Brandon came in, and I had woke up that morning, and I was not really in a good place, so I tapped, and said, I let all of the angst out of my body, and it was okay. I put myself in a safe place, and I said, it's okay that I have these feelings of anger. It's okay that I have these feelings of depression, frustration. It's okay. And I just tap, to give myself comfort. I hug myself. And then I went into the affirmations of the good things. I know my son loves me. I have good friends that love me. I have a roof over my head. I have food, But when I got into the house and Brandon came in, he said, let's vent a little bit. And we did. And we let all the bad things out, and we talked about it amongst ourselves for maybe about 5 or 6 minutes. And then we turned it over to the good affirmations, to the good points. And it felt really good, and it was okay that we were in that safe place together, and we vented the good way, and then we put the good in,
Yeah, that's one of those things that, I find that most people, you talk to them and they're like, I feel so bad because I have these feelings, and it's like, you're a human being, you're gonna have feelings. The worst thing you can do is try to hang on to them and not express them. Now, okay, you don't want to express them in a negative way, but the whole thing of grab a pillow and scream into it, it works. Whatever you have to do, people want to try to hold on to that, and they say, well, I should be able to deal with it,
But that causes
But if you let it
disease,
go in that
high
way,
blood pressure.
yeah, it leads to illness, and it can lead to mental stress and physical stress. It can manifest itself into a physical, issue with
Of
your
course.
body.
Yeah, because holding that in creates cortisol, and we've talked about that in different shows about how cortisol will serve you in an emergency, but it's not good to continuously produce it in your
Right.
body. You need those good hormones that can only be produced by being calm.
Good thought. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
It also,
Like the psychology has a name, somatophysical and psychosomatic.
psychosomatic, yeah. And it really helps too, real quick, Bob, I'm going to tell you, it's like, you and Nell talk a lot. Y'all read to each other, whatever, just sit there and listen. And that's a big thing, even if you don't have anybody, or if you don't feel that you have anybody, it's always better to talk to somebody. So if you can, like Nell and I do it, but if you sit down and talk to somebody and say, hey, look, let's be vent partners, or let's work
Yeah,
this
be a
out.
team partner.
Exactly.
Even if it's somebody you just met and have a connection with, just ask the question. It can't hurt. And that way you have an outlet, and it's not about there's no judgment, there's no nothing. It's just for you and that other person to be able to let go of everything that your stress of your day, whatever it may be, whatever the problem is, get it out, and then move forward. Because if you don't, it's like an anchor.
Yeah.
It'll drag you down, and it'll wear you out, and the next thing you're sick and you can't work and you can't do stuff. So,
Yeah. It's like what the Bible says. What is going on in your heart will come out.
right. Yeah.
If
Right.
you're angry, people will know you're angry.
They'll see that.
And the eyes can't hide what the heart,
Yeah.
feels. So,
Yeah. Thank you, Brandon.
yeah.
And I would like to say, what was I gonna say? I forgot.
You want me to read from your book now?
Read from my book. Yeah.
Okay, this is Bob's book, The Time Traveler, the first book.
The first science fiction book I ever wrote.
Yes, and you have another one now. So it's called Jared's Odyssey, and this is about Atlantis.
Okay.
And I like the way that his words flowed and described the city. I thought it was brilliant. They are amazed at the Atlantean architecture with its marble columns adorning almost all the city buildings. They look fondly at the houses of the populace with their quaint thatched cottages like those in Elizabeth's England. In addition, they are amazed at the cleanliness of the homes and the streets in the city of Emerald, which was the name of the largest city of Atlantis. All over the city, the many buildings are painted emerald green, thus the city's name, Emerald. Jared tells Susan, it's the Emerald City like in The Wizard of Oz, and starts laughing. It's the bestest city I have ever been in. A very serious Susan asks, how can you joke at a time like this? Jared barked, don't you know that we may be in serious trouble? In a very calm tone, he says, my dear, I am the time traveler, and I told you I'd take care of you and guard you with my life. I love you, Susan. As long as you are with me, I promise you will be safe. It's wonderful. Yeah. No, it's great. It's wonderful. I love
Bob,
the
you
imagery.
didn't know this, but Seattle is called the Emerald City.
Oh, really?
Oh,
Yes.
wow.
Okay.
Well, if those of you who haven't known before, Bob's book is actually set in Lafayette. What's the name of the city?
The name of the city is Layville.
Yes.
It is in Lafayette, Louisiana, with the Cajun heritage with names.
And there's a lot of history that's very interesting in there too.
And this is my first book, From Light to Darkness to Glory, an autobiography that I wrote, and I'd like to read it. And of course, I like to brag on myself. Like, I brag on God, what God has done for me,
Yes.
you know? Because without God, I'd probably be living under a bridge with cancer of the lungs, you know, smoke 4 packs of cigarettes a day for 25 years, you know? I guess I got healed, you know?
Yeah.
If you're reading, this is my book. If you're reading this book, I ask you to think of all the good things in your life God has given you and start talking to Him. If you have trouble believing that He's real, ask Him to show you either with people or a sign or intuition or even a visitation or whatever He chooses to reveal to you. And believe me, dear reader, He most surely will. You can put that in your pipe and smoke it. He's the most real entity that exists and is more loving and forgiving than any human on the planet. Yet a lot of the smartest people on the planet believe that He doesn't exist and has never existed. I just ask you silly people with your degrees, your PhDs, your great wisdom and achievements, how do you think this all started? Surely there must have been a beginning. An uncaused cause that started it all. I ask you geniuses to look at a hummingbird. Its perfect symmetry, its tremendous wing power, and its perfect beauty. I ask, do you really think an explosion caused that noble creature to be here? The enormity of your ignorance is baffling to me. It's the spirit that gives life. And like electricity is the source of power in our homes, it's the Spirit that gives us life, and it comes from God, Jesus, and the Holy Ghost.
That's beautiful.
That's not too bad.
Yeah.
And now that I'm reading, I want to read a little bit from a sequel to The Time Traveler. And this is this is Jared. Okay, you heard the guy in there is Jared. Okay, this is Jared a year later, and he's in his house, in his apartment with Susan, and he's reading the newspaper. Then after satisfying himself on the sports news, Jared turns to the front page, and in a loud and very clear voice he shouts out, "Wow, look at that." The reason for Jared's outburst is because on the front page is a painting of Susan in blue jeans. Susan is his girlfriend. Jared, who looks more closely at the painting, sees a woman who is the splitting image of his wife Susan. She is standing up in a kitchen, holding up what Jared guesses is some kind of light. However, on closer examination, Jared knows that the light is not a candle, but is in fact a big lighter that the woman is holding. Jared then looks at the woman and knows that it is a picture of Susan painted when they were on one of their time trips. Jared then reads that the picture is a painting found in an old barn in Florence. When renovations were done to it, it was found in an old chest. Wow, that old dog, Jared exclaims out loud. As he reads, the painting is believed to be the work of none other than Leonardo da Vinci in the 15th century. Jared then stops reading and looks again closely at the painting, which is about a 3-foot long painting in color. Jared says to himself, "It's as good as the one he did of Susan when I gave him the Polaroid picture of her." As Jared studies the picture, which was clear, unlike many newspaper pictorials, he sees her long black hair falling down past her shoulders, her large bright green eyes, and a creamy skin, and Jared thinks to himself, "Yeah, that's my girl," as he then observes her attire of not only holding a lighter at dusk from the 20th century, but she also had on blue jeans and a tie-dye t-shirt, complete with all of its swirling, clearly seen colors of purple, red, green, yellow, and blue. And there, okay, that's it. Okay.
So what's the time?
The time?
Yeah.
8:20.
8:20.
Okay, do y'all want to talk?
Brandon,
Do you want to talk, Brandon?
we usually said we'd have like the showing of the art at 8:30 for the people that are, we have like 10 minutes.
Oh.
So you want to talk about the male-female communication, or you want to do that after we show the art?
I didn't know we were doing that.
Yeah, we talked about it.
Well, I'll tell you what.
Prepared, but okay.
You want to talk, Brandon?
Well, no, we were just going to have like a little round the table discussion about it.
Okay. Well, I would like to start off.
So what do you think, okay, would be the main issue that men and women have when it comes to truly communicating?
I would have to say true, like true communication.
Yeah.
Instead of, I'm just gonna give this as from my experience an example. You know, the whole men are from Mars, women are from Venus thing. But you know, we joke around, and I think it used to bother Nell because she would ask what's wrong, and I'd say nothing. And what most women don't realize is that there's boxes. I watched a video, and this is pretty cool because this is how the guy put it. He said, men think in boxes. Men have stuff organized in boxes. They do this, it goes in a box. They do that, and it goes in a box. And men actually have a box in their head that has a label on it that says nothing. And when a man says, when a woman asks, "What are you thinking about?" and he says nothing, he really means nothing. There is nothing going on in his head. There's a spot, a place that a man can go that no thought, nothing passes through his head.
I can relate to that.
Yeah.
Can y'all? I mean, seriously,
it's
because
like the old joke, like the woman who she could see her husband's quiet and he's acting strange, and so she's got it in her mind. Oh God, he's having an affair. He doesn't love me anymore. I'm too fat. And it goes on for weeks, so finally she gets up the courage to ask him. She says, "Are you filing for a divorce?" He looked at her, he said, "Woman, what is wrong with you?" He said, "I've been having trouble with my motorcycle, and I can't figure out how to fix it, and it's driving me crazy."
Exactly.
And so, exactly,
Yeah.
like, communication.
usually, and then if there is something wrong, it's going to be something to that degree. It has nothing to do with your relationship. It has nothing to do with you as a person. He's working on a clutch, and in his head, he's pulling apart the pieces, and he couldn't figure it out.
Which is exactly like coming from a girl's point of view, from the female point of view, is that, we talked about this, and many times, and we're not trying to stigmatize people because it's not for every person, but we're just looking at it overall in a general manner, right, of trying to find better ways that not only men and women, but families and parents and children can learn to communicate better, because miscommunication, I believe, is so rampant, and it's not something we've been taught. But I think females, basically a lot of us, I'm speaking for myself, I have a lot of insecurities in certain areas about being enough, saying the right thing, doing the right thing. And so I've had to back off of trying to be in that perfectionist, because I'm a perfectionist, and I've had to back off away from that because I found that through that I was causing stress on the people around me. And so I had to lighten up. But I think also women have a certain amount of insecurity. They need reassurance more often, I think, than men. Some men do. You know, put your hand on theirs and say, you know, and look in their eyes, it really is okay. I'm just right now, I'm kind of preoccupied with some other things. It's not anything you've done. You know, so offer that to the female and make her feel like it's, you know, it is really okay.
Yeah.
And
Could I say something?
yeah.
Let me read this that I got. If something made you cry when you were a child, your experience was probably a little something like this. If you were a boy, you would cry, then go to your mom or dad for some comfort, and would hear something along the lines of, "Stop crying, you're a man. Men don't cry. Stop crying now." It didn't take long, and you eventually learned that this is exactly what you needed to do every time you had a problem.
No.
No, and so
No,
that's-
they did studies, and you know
No.
they asked boys, you know, how do you feel like, and they said, I don't feel like I can express my emotions. And a lot of the times, that's why young boys choose to go to suicide or choose to go
Yeah.
to addiction.
Well, this is what I'm reading, what we were taught, you know.
Yeah.
I'm not saying this is the right thing.
Well,
I'm just saying
yeah.
this is what we were taught. And let me continue. If you were a girl, you would cry, then go to your mom or dad for some comfort, and would hear something along the lines of, "What happened, sweetie? Come here and tell me all about it."
Right.
You would be cuddled and showered with love and affection, and you would have a warm shoulder to cry on until you stopped crying. It didn't take long, and you eventually learned that this was exactly what you needed to do every time you had a problem. That's what you were saying earlier, Nellie, like how women need to be able to express themselves if something's going wrong with them, you know.
Right, you
Yeah.
know, and especially if you're in a relationship with a, you know, the female male, you know, they've got a male brain, you've got a female brain, and they don't work the same most of the time. Not everybody, but most of the relationships I've studied. And so if you study the male brain, and like Brandon said, see how the counterparts of his brain works, and see, you can see a shift literally in someone's eyes when you're trying to communicate. And we always talk about, you know, communicating through the heart instead of just the brain. And I'm going to read about that heart math stuff again in a little while. But Brandon, you have some more comments before we go to the art, and then we can come back to this.
Yeah, then that's, I mean, one of the biggest deals. You know, it's not trying to understand, generalize men and women. Like you said, you can on a basis, but learn the person you're talking to.
Body signals.
Yeah, but also, once again, it's don't wait for your turn to talk. Communicate. Really listen to what that person has to say. Don't just. I see people sitting on the edge of their seat just anxious to spit whatever's in their brain out. They're not even paying attention to what's being said.
Yeah.
They're just waiting for their turn to speak.
That's where pulling from the heart, working through the heart comes, because you get more of an intuitive nature to communicate of things that come from your heart. So think about it, your brain, okay, you've been busy all day long, you've been scrambled, you've been stressed out, you sit down to have a conversation at a meal, you know how that feeling is. But the way to shift that is go into your heart and start heart breathing. And the heart has a wisdom all of its own. They say the heart has its own brain, and it controls the sympathetic nervous system. So you're going to automatically kick in to this coherence from your nervous system away from the stress if you use the heart. We're going to switch on over to the art section right now. We are going to share some art from a Acadian artist, Byron Knott, who lives in Arnaville. And we talk about the healing and the performing arts a lot, because not just the journaling and the writing and the expression gets rid of friction, but also even if you can do any sort of art drawing,
Coloring.
sketching. You don't have to be great at it. You don't even have to ever show it to anybody. But you'll see children, whenever they get frustrated, they sit down with the crayon and they let it come out onto the paper, and they're creating instead of destroying.
Even at IOP, they have colors and stuff. This is Byron Nutt right here.
Brandon,
And
you
that-
want to come talk about his art a little bit? These are landscapes that Byron creates. He lives out along the Bayou Teche, and a lot of these come from what he sees.
Yeah, like the one on the top left, that would just be, we're driving home after work. He sees a field, and it's just basic shapes. It's one of the great things I love about Byron's art is that it's so simplistic, but it's still, has so much feeling and emotion to it. And the colors he uses, if you were driving by and you go, hey, I've seen that field in Arnaville, and people do it all the time. So, like I said, he takes the basic shape of the tree, takes the basic shape of the land or whatever, and I like it because it's very childlike and innocent, but it's very complex at the same time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
y'all spend a lot of hours painting together
Oh, man.
and
If I could tell you-
stressing, letting
I
stress
could tell
go.
you how
The
many.
stress goes when you paint.
Oh yeah, and see that's the thing too. The great thing about working that I really loved about working with Byron was we could go, because we painted for years together, but we could go all day long and not say a word to each other, and just paint, and be in the same room, and not have not one conversation
Yeah,
passes.
but y'all were actually communicating,
But we were
not
communicating,
verbally.
exactly, and it was an amazing experience.
Right, and I want to offer to everybody too, we've been exploring and researching some safer paints. A lot of the artists, do suffer from using some of the paints, and we're going to be sharing some of those resources with you in future shows. Brandon's going to bring up next Byron's drawings, and these are amazing drawings, and you'll see these are interpretations of the masters. We're talking Michelangelo, we're talking Da Vinci. You can see these are self-portraits. One is of Da Vinci,
That's pretty good.
one is of Michelangelo, and the one at the top is the Christ child. I believe that's Michelangelo, and I've never seen anyone do interpretations of the master drawings like this.
Byron did those
Yes.
drawings?
See
Wow.
this? You see, this is the Christ
Wow.
child. Of
Yeah, that Michelangelo did,
And
yeah.
then you saw in the collage, you see, and this is actually, look how beautiful this is.
That's great.
Isn't that amazing? This is a portrait, Michelangelo, a self-portrait that Byron did an interpretation of. Look at the lines, look at the expression,
Yeah.
look at the eyes. It's just amazing, that he had captured it with his own interpretation, but yet still, you can see the impression of what the master said still reflected and what he learned from these masters.
And I would like to say if this is Michelangelo.
No, this is
Leonardo da Vinci.
This is Da Vinci.
Wow.
Can you bring the collage back up? Now this is the man in red that he did, and you can see on the right, the bottom, he did it in green. And the likeness is just incredible. We're going to have some larger ones and some different ones that we share next time we feature Byron. And we would like to say thank you, Byron, for sharing
Byron.
your incredible
Thank
art
you.
with us. And Byron is also a guitarist and a composer, and we'll be sharing some of his original compositions again in another show. Thank you, Byron.
Thank you, Nellie. Okay,
Okay, Brandon wants us to go ahead and let Richard do his segment now. Richard?
Well, we've been learning some things at IOP, and one of the most interesting things, when Brandon brings up the diagram, the emotion mind, the rational mind, or the reasonable mind, and then over those two, the wise mind. And just to summarize, the needs of both the reasonable mind, what I should do, and the emotional mind, what I want to do, are met. Reasonable mind is right, but the emotional mind needs to be soothed. Usually, quietly calm is the wise inner part of us that just knows what is true or valid. You can personalize the name, such as clear mind or kind mind. And each is valid. On the emotional side, you may have feelings about something, anger, joy, happiness, sadness, and those should be allowed to flourish and not be judged. And yet the reasonable mind, it balances that with more the logical side, the right side of the brain. The wise mind overreaches that and moderates between the two of them. And that diagram, if Brandon can bring that back up again, I think really illustrates the overlap between those two areas. I'm going to read something here. You can practice this. You take a breath. What does the wise mind make of this? What is the bigger picture? What will the consequences of my reaction be, short and long term? What's going to be the best response to the situation? Best for me, for others, and for the situation. What would be the most helpful and effective, all things considered? And we'll amplify more on this next time.
That's awesome, Richard.
But this kind of goes along with the male-female
Right.
way of thinking, and this can be added to this.
Yeah.
Because you can get over-emotional or you can get over-logical. There's always somewhere in between. There are those with brain conditions that can't control emotions, like say through a brain injury, and they have to learn new skills to try to regulate the emotions. A lot of vets that have
Right.
traumatic brain injury really struggle in this area.
But the good thing about that is that if you have a spouse that will learn these tools and help guide the person, many times they show, and I know this is exactly true because Brandon has helped me with this in very many aspects, from a brain trauma that I experienced, is that he will guide me when he sees me struggling. He's learned these tools and he will guide me gently to another place and
Well, that's
help
good.
me. But it seems that once that starts, you get to practice these things together instead of flying off the handle or being totally helpless. You have all these tools, and if you have a confidant and you have someone to help you that learns these tools and helps guide you, it not only brings down their stress because, they have something they can do to help, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it also has been shown to retrain the part of the brain that's damaged. Bob, you want to read?
Yeah, this getting back to men and women, the differences. I researched this, and this is really good. Like I talked about how the norm is that little boys are taught not to cry. I mean, I know that's wrong. I can't cry, but I was brainwashed like that. And little girls are pampered and everything when they feel bad. Now let me get to this now that they're adults. Now you are both adults and married, but what you probably don't know is that the same child is still there inside you. What does this mean for your marriage? Think about your behavior when you have a problem. What happens when your wife is sad, upset, or stressed out about something? Now listen to this now. You act out exactly what you learned. She comes over to speak about something that's on her mind, expecting to find a shoulder to lean on, affection and a listening ear. What do you give her instead? The same shock treatment you would get from your parents as a child. And worse, the accuser of being weak, emotional, and offer what you think are solutions to a problem. Then she wonders how on earth she ended up marrying this insensitive caveman from the Stone Age. Now that's a woman.
Yeah.
Now here's a man. If you're a woman, your husband comes home upset about something, stressed out. This is what Brandon was talking about. Angry or accumulating some type of negative emotion. Straight away you notice that something is wrong. Want to help him, you offer the same treatment you would receive as a child. Honey, what happened? Is something wrong? Talk to me. What are you thinking about? But he comes out with the classic, everything's fine, while thinking, Why doesn't this annoying woman leave me alone? And you feel isolated from his world.
Exactly. I could offer some advice of something that I learned. Give the man time to go into the cave.
Right.
Because he needs that to defuse, and sometimes he needs it just to go in there and be in the cave. And when he's ready, he'll give you the signals, he'll come out, but don't go in there after him. You can't be everything for him every moment, and you can't always be perfect. So allow that cave time, and I learned that the hard way, right,
Well,
Brandy?
Nell made we discussed it the other day, and she made a great point, and what she's saying is exactly true, and I'm sure that most men, I'm sure that the guys sitting here will all agree to that. When you're trying to deal with something, you internalize it, and you deal with it. When you're ready to talk about it, you'll talk about it. But before you're ready to talk about it, if you're approached about it, then it just becomes
A blow
A
up.
a problem.
It's a
Talk about
bomb.
it.
And you haven't had the chance. Men are fixers. You haven't had a chance to put the tools to it yet. You haven't had a chance to break it down and look at it yet. So in our mind, logical, we're like A, B, C. Okay, A plus B equals C. You take the
Rational
steps.
mind.
The rational mind. There you
Yeah.
go. And so we don't put the emotional. Usually, the emotional mind's there, but usually it's the rational mind trying to get rid of the problem, so the emotional mind doesn't get too involved.
Yeah.
I think it's part of the problem.
And that brings to mind about like a man, like a lot of times when a man sees a woman in distress, Nelly can help us with this. The man will try to fix it.
Exactly.
He'll say, well, let me get you a cup of coffee. Or do you want to go to the store and buy something? Let me give you some money. You can go shopping or whatever he can get,
Yeah.
How do you say, how would you react
Let me
to that?
before you get to that, let's expound on that real quick, because we were talking about that exact same thing. I just recently learned, thinking that I knew women for years and years and years, and I knew this, but it's hard to get out of that fixing habit, is when a woman starts talking, shut up. Just listen. Don't say anything. She's not looking for a response. She's looking for someone to listen. She doesn't want you to fix it. She doesn't care what your opinion is. She really, at that moment, let her say what she's got to say.
Okay.
Because she's looking to have an ear, a confidant, I believe, as
Yes,
Nell put it.
confidant. And for you to say every once in a while, and you can put your hand on hers and look her in the eye
just
and
reassure, yes.
say, I understand.
But don't say you should have done this or you should have done that. Because in her mind,
See, the
she's
frustration-
like, oh my
And
God.
the play on that is that men are fixers, and they do not like to be viewed as incompetent. They want to be the hero. They want to be able to fix it. And sometimes you just cannot. Sometimes she's trying to work out something in her mind, and she just needs for you to stop what you're doing and listen. And just every once in a while, give her a little bit of encouragement and let her get it out. Let her cry, give her a shoulder, hold her, touch her hand. I'm going to give you all the secret, guys, okay? A woman's wrist right here, oh, wow, that is so sensitive. If you rub her wrist like this, it soothes her, it calms her. Why? Because it's super sensitive. Women are more prone to touch, needing more closeness. Most men have, like I said, a different mindset. And so by basically comforting and nurturing in very small ways, I promise you, because the man, what will happen is he'll get frustrated, because if he offers some advice, right, and she's in this little zone of her own and she doesn't respond to that advice, what happens, Brandon? He gets what?
Frustrated.
Not only frustrated, he gets
And
what?
mad.
Defensive.
Right.
Because he feels like, and that goes both ways. So, this is so interesting. Isn't this fun? To sit
This is
here
fun.
and have this little round table about, how we can better learn each other. Working through the heart coherence is an amazing tool. We've all learned, right? Remember
Yeah.
how we used to always fight amongst ourselves and we misunderstood each other? When we started doing this and we started having the heart coherence tools and working with the heart math, our lives changed dramatically. Our bonds, we've all became closer.
We become closer. When
you could
you see
literally
Brent-
feel our fields of energy become closer, and we reach out to each other more in better ways. Don't you think, Brandon?
Yeah, and that's another great point you bring up too, is just that, people, we're talking, we're speaking, we're communicating, but 90% of communication is nonverbal. I mean, if you can get to the point, whether you believe it or not, if you don't believe it, that's fine, but, when you experience it after a while, sitting next to Richard, he's close to me, but I can feel him. I can feel Nell, I can feel Bob. It's just after a while you learn to read people's energies. I can close my eyes and you can see the fields overlapping. You know what I mean? So if you learn that and learn how to read people's feelings and energy, if I'm this close to Richard and I can't feel his energy, that means he's pulling back. That means he's really drawn into himself, and that he's got something going on. I'm not going to say there's what specific deal it is, but then then if you get close to somebody and you can feel heat coming off of them, you know what I mean? Then they're projecting, and that there's something else wrong. You know what I mean? Or maybe they're just in a great mood. You have to learn to read the energy. You know what I mean? If it's a very warm, feeling, but not hot. It's kind of weird because when you learn to read it, it's people say, well, it's warm, but not hot. You know what I mean? People with good energy project that warm, fuzzy, sitting by the fire feeling.
Well, it's no different from if you're in a crowd of people and everything's okay, and then all of a sudden a certain person comes near you and you get the prickly things going off in the back of your neck, and you want to do like this.
Yeah, or if you're
they might be mad, or they might be having a frustrated day, and everybody else is happy, and then they call it an energy drain. It's no different from that, really, and it can be measured actually scientifically. They have done this. It's sort of like when you're searching for water with the old timey, what do you call that?
A divining rod.
A divining rod.
It's a divining
Is that
rod.
what they call it?
Your electrical energy changes.
Exactly,
Yeah.
and so the heart emits electromagnetic field, and there is an aura meter that we've done this actually in our workshops about reading other people's energies, and you can just take a regular coat hanger and you cut it into an L and you hold it, and you ask the person to project a thought, and you walk with the coat hanger, and it'll flip. Literally, you just hold it, and we had the other people do it, and it'll just flip itself up when you get into a field, up or down, depending on the anxiousness or the happiness or whatever. And so these little rods, they've actually measured, the electromagnetic fields.
And like we always talk about, when two people come in contact, there's a chemical change,
Exactly.
Right.
And
it's
this is
either good or bad.
important. This is important for emergency situations. When you encounter someone during a disaster, the first reaction is to start talking to them. The best thing to do, and I've been through the training on this through one particular organization that was at the World Trade Center, is listening. You may not end up saying anything to them. They just need someone there, because they're not processing what you're saying.
No,
They are in shock.
You need them to communicate to you, because you communicating to them is probably, like Richard's saying, it's not getting through. But if a person in shock is communicating with you, it forces them to focus on the conversation and not the situation at hand, and it's a distraction technique, and it helps actually alleviate the stress levels and lower your cortisol, in your brain.
There's a book that we're getting called Dialectical Behavior Therapy Skills Workbook. That's a big mouthful.
Yeah.
But they have exercises in there that you can do when the emotional tidal wave or tsunami gets really heavy. You're just feeling overwhelmed. There's things you can do to distract, like get out that coloring book and color, or go walk out of the room where the stress is occurring, or call up somebody, let's say from your support group, whatever you get your support from. A friend of mine did this today when he found out they might become homeless. They called somebody within our Connections NAMI support group and got that listening ear that they needed that they otherwise wouldn't have gotten because they picked
Right.
up the phone.
But you have to practice these things because they'll come to you automatically, but it takes practice.
Oh, yeah.
It's the same thing with the performing arts. If we're going to sing a song or we're going to do a dance or wherever we're going to do a play, we have to practice. And so that kicks in. So what happens before some people get stage fright, some people get very nervous, some people get physically ill. Even some of the big actors even
Oh,
talk
yeah.
about they
They all say they get
but
nervous.
if you practice and little things, I promise, kick in at the worst possible time when you're not even thinking about it. The more we do this, the more we see this is true. If someone's coming at you and they're angry or they're having a bad day and you're starting to feel that drain, you're not helpless. Look above that person's head. You can offer them compassion and kindness without ever saying a word, and they're more tendency at that moment to trigger something in you, some trauma from the past that may not have anything to do with them, and you may end up in an argument, right, because they triggered that from their trauma.
Nelly.
And then the thing you do is look above their head and you see a rainbow. Picture, or try to remember this and try it. Picture a rainbow above their head. Look at their heart and start taking in breaths from your heart and see those colors above their head. And you know what you're doing? You're diffusing the situation, but you're also assisting that person's energy fields so that they can feel comfort and nurtured.
Would you like to sing a song?
Sure.
Can you think?
Yes,
We
I'll
got,
sing.
6 minutes.
Beautiful dreamer, wake unto me. Starlight and dewdrop are waiting for thee. Sounds of the rude world heard in the day, lulled by the moonlight, have all passed away. Beautiful dreamer, queen of my song, list while I woo thee with soft melody. Then shall the cares of this world depart. Beautiful dreamer, awake unto me. Beautiful dreamer, awake unto me.
All right.
Beautiful. We talked about a lot of stuff that what we learned about men and women. Now I would like to
Man,
to say,
that flies by, dude. It's already been an hour.
huh?
I said it flies by. It's already been an hour.
I know.
Let's thank AOC and everybody
Yeah.
here for the beautiful platform, for the support that we get from them.
Miss Jackie, thank you very
Jackie,
much. Of course, always
Angel,
gotta-
catch a kiss. Thank you, viewers. Y'all are amazing, and the reason we're here every week, so we can work together towards a better, beautiful world and a better future.
Yeah. Like we learned that for women, if a woman, sometimes women would just want to talk and let it all out, and for the guy, just listen and nod and maybe hug and give a few words of support as they go along. They just want to talk, like
Right.
Nellie said.
And I would talk about the wrist, also the cheek right here, rubbing the cheek is very calming. It's like something like what your mother would do when you were a baby. But, on the other hand, what can women do for the man?
Yeah, like Brandon said.
That kind of can be kind of tricky.
Hand on the
There's-
shoulder?
Yeah.
Is that okay?
I think the biggest thing you can
That's
do
the
is
most
that when you recognize
first.
it, and that's another
Hand on the shoulder,
contact
maybe.
too. Though you kind of got to know the person, so take that
Yeah,
into
but
your.
we're talking about,
Well, if you're in a relationship,
Right.
yes.
I found that works good. One hand on the shoulder, not too hard, not to invade
No.
the space, but only to like a silent gesture to
But-
say.
But if
okay,
you-
One of the
right,
one of the
understand.
quickest things that I can tell you is that just approach it once. If you meet any kind of I'm okay
Resistance or-
but ask it they have to ask it in the right way. are you okay? Can we talk? Do we need to talk? You know what I
Or
mean?
do you need some space?
Do you need the
Ask.
space? Exactly. Ask, and well, man will tell you, if he's not feeling pressured or pushed, he'll be like, okay, I got it. I'll talk to you later or whatever. You know what I mean? So
Right.
just
But
let it go for then, and then
And asking.
it's maybe 20 minutes, half an hour, or the best thing you can do is watch facial expressions. You'll see. It's like going into if you've ever seen anybody go into a rage and you see them, and then they slowly, it's like the Hulk transforming. He goes from green to different
Right, and don't be
colors.
afraid to ask. That was one of the things I'll say now, this is really what I want as a female. I'll say that to even my male friends that I have no relationship with. And then they understand, but they really want to know. Right, Bob? Don't you really want to know?
What?
Now, if you're in a group setting, like let's say a support group, then it's wise to ask before you would hug somebody or tap somebody's
yeah, you're not-
shoulder.
Well, sure,
This-
yeah.
That's a different dynamic.
We're talking about, boundaries and
Right,
in your
right,
bubble, my territorial bubble. You don't want to breach that, but
right.
Yeah, we're discussing more like say even in a friendship, like if you've been friends for people years and you think you know them and you go to give them a hug and then they're like, some people you don't know.
Right.
Right, but some
So-
people are so much in the raw thing that they can't,
So we got like a minute left.
About 30 seconds.
Minute?
Yes.
Okay, let me go check the TriCast.
Okay, okay.
Okay, I'm going to just read from the Heart Math. If you want to find out more about the Heart Math, go to heartmath.org. And this is about the Institute. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. We love